Greetings, dear freedom fighter. You couldn't have put it more concisely. There really is a new world order, and it is really truly being rolled out at this point. Government enslavement is happening right before our eyes, and let us not be deceived. Let's stay awake, stay alert. Something really truly is going on behind the scenes. Well, soon, dear freedom fighter, it's no longer going to be happening behind the scenes. It's going to be right in our faces. Okay? It's really going to start... Hello, Love Triber. Good morning. Good morning. So let me just check in over here, see where everybody is. Oh, first of all, let me make a couple... No, let me just say hello first. Greetings. Greetings all. This is Lumination. It is Wednesday, 28th of October here in sunny Las Vegas. It's much, much cooler now. I had the privilege and luxury of hanging out over here with Love Triber. Love Triber's on the screen there right now. And I get to enjoy the company of her three beautiful, beautiful, adorable little furry creatures. We've all become good friends. We have adventures every day. So I just thought I'd share that with everybody. Hope you don't mind. Hi, Nikki. Hello, Path. Hello, Freedom Fighter. I don't remember you being here before, but you sound like the kind of person, according to your typing there, that you probably fit in with this crowd quite well. Thank you. Most of us here are have the same feelings as yourself, okay? Not everybody is aware. Some people are. But the awareness is expanding across the earth right now. Let me see here. I just want to do a couple of bits of housekeeping work, okay? So I was advised to put this little notice on the top for all future videos coming out, okay? And mostly this is for the Sunday Night Lives when people do their mini super chat things, because I've discovered that the wonderful platform that allows us to do this whole show, they take about 35% of the super chat money that comes to Terra Illumination. That's a ton of money, and I need every penny I can raise right now, okay? So, suggested here, if anybody does donate in the future, you can do directly to PayPal over at this email address here. It's a little book about at yahoo.com. Conversely, if anyone's interested, there's another way that you can go direct. Excuse me, it doesn't seem to be working. Let me just do some adjustments here. And I don't know why it's not working. Give me a second here. I have to do some adjustments. Now there should be visible here. It's not working very well. Let me see if I can. Okay, there's something screwed up going on here. Give me a second. I'm going to do some tweaking around with the technology here. See if I can get everything to fit a little bit better. Something like this, perhaps. I'm not really sure. I'm just kind of winging things at the moment. Let's have a look. No, you can't see anything. I don't know what's going on. I've screwed up yet again, people. Let's have a look here. Oh, dang. Okay. Oh, it's just so annoying when I can't get these things to work. Give me... Here it is. Okay. I think that's a little bit better now. Sorry about the blank out screens. There we are. Now we're settled in again. So, let me start from scratch again here. Okay, so if anyone puts donations in for the future, whatever, just for thrills, you can go to a little book about at yahoo.com and use your PayPal. If you don't have a PayPal, you can actually do it this way. You can go to terraillumination.com and go to the donate clicker here. Click on this donate button. It takes you straight through to like a little place, just like this, just the same as a super chat. It works exactly the same way as the super chat on Sunday nights, and you can donate that way. And it will show up here. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Let me go back to a few things here. So, some of you are aware that... Hello, Ivona, I see you. I see you. And you can hear me, yes. I had to do, I've been up since I've been up since about 6:30 this morning, trying to get myself together. It's going very slowly, as you can tell. I'm still having my little coffee break. And I've made some notes here, but I'm sure some of you have some comments of your own. Things are getting very wild at the moment. So with the, I'm not going to make an astrodoodle today. It's just very strange today what's happening. We're heading up very close to the full moon. Okay, so all right. So today is Wednesday. This time next week, we're going to be living through a historical event in the United States. It's called the American election. And whether we like it or not, this election is either just going to be a complete non-event to billions of people in the world, but for some people it's going to be life-changing. So I don't know where you guys stand. I have my own opinions, and I've made some notes on there. And there's a lot of what they call volatility right now regarding this subject, kind of above and beyond the normal activity. We had a very life-changing event in 2008 when Obama was elected. That shook up the whole world. It was almost a staggering landslide win. And it just woke up the whole planet. And guess what? That happened simultaneously when Pluto went into Capricorn at 0 degrees. Interesting. Okay? And that was at the very same time as that massive implosion. Interesting. Wall Street collapses. Bear Stearns implodes. Lehman Brothers banks implode. Did you watch the movie Margin Call? Did you watch the movie The Big Short? Because those were just tiny little samplers of what's happening today. We've taken it to a whole new level today, and Freedom Fighter basically talked about it. Let me go back to your notes. I want to, now that we're actually here, let me go to your notes there. It says Freedom Fighter here. Freedom Fighter for the Next Generation. I don't know who that is, but thank you. That's a cool title, actually. It's a good name. The New Order, I'm just reading directly from your text. The New Order has really begun. One world government enslavement is happening right before our very own eyes. Please do not be deceived. Stay awake and alert. Something really is going on behind the scenes. And what I was trying to say earlier is that it's not behind the scenes anymore. The curtains are starting to open up. And we're building up to it right now. We have the full moon coming up in a few days. Excuse me, got an itchy nose here. Sorry about that. We got the full moon coming up in a few days. The moon will be in Taurus. The sun will be in Scorpio, a full-on opposition. And guess what? Those are the money signs. Those are the money houses. Like on a westernized generic chart, Taurus is the second house, okay? And it indicates money, value, values, things of value, belief systems about values. In other words, money, what we think of as money, is a belief system. Money is what we believe it to be. I will make a point here. That happens to be the very first line in my little book. And it says there, right there on the front page. Money is what we believe it to be. And the concepts and, let's say, the use structures of money have changed over and over in time as human beings became more and more populated, and they found they had to have more diverse ways for commerce and exchange. Mercury's still retrograde. Mercury is the planet of commerce, okay? And it is in Scorpio, but it's going to be retrograding all the way into Libra and then back into Scorpio again. So it's kind of bumpy. In other words, the Taurus-Scorpio opposition is live. It's happening right now. The sun is in Scorpio, and it's highlighting, in terms of global finances, it's highlighting the subjects of other people's money, like your investments, your debts, your credit cards, your savings plans, your retirement plans, Wall Street, the big, massive trusts that are supposedly what we trust to look after our money after you've worked very, very hard to get your money. All of that stuff is in a state of extreme fragility right now, and it's showing up on the markets. I'm not a market expert. I have understanding of broad concepts, but I'm not a market trader. Okay? I'm an observer. I like to watch because I'm very interested, because the markets give you an idea of what's happening across the world, because a lot of political activity, emotional activity, financial activity, commercial activity shows up in what they call the markets. And there are markets all over the world. It never stops. Money never sleeps. The big market is over here in Wall Street. There's another big market over here in Hong Kong. There's another big market over here in Chicago. There's another big market over here in London. There's another big market over here in Japan. And those are just some basic examples. Okay, they have another one over here in Europe as well. They're all moving money simultaneously. They are all trading with each other to try and gain advantage over someone else's weakness. The way the currency markets work is, let's say, the value of a country as represented by the value of its currency is a free-floating phenomenon in space. And if you screw up in your country, let's say I'm the governor, I'm the boss of Venezuela or something, or Lebanon, or Greece, or Argentina, or Zimbabwe, for example, and I'm really much more interested in just lining my own pockets, and I treat my population as just sheep, and I can just screw them over and take advantage of them. And I have political policies that show this to be true. Then there's a high likelihood, again, like in Cuba is in deep trouble. There's a high likelihood that my economy in my country will implode. And that is exactly what's happening right now, because those countries and quite a few others are owned and operated by highly corrupt institutions. Their governors and their bankers. And they don't care about the welfare of the people. Other countries behave differently. Japan is very, very conservative. China is extremely aggressive. Okay? India is very expansive, and they are craving stability. The United States is very, I would say, manipulative and exploitive. And everyone has their kind of characteristics. And I wrote this book. I've shown this many times. I wrote this book to try and outline in a very broad way for general understanding of what is at stake here. And I made a very accurate prediction years ago when I wrote the book I started my notes around 2014. I kept writing, first drafts, and then eventually it got published in early 2018. And I showed it immediately to some really top-level astrologers and financial astrologers who play the markets, okay? And they had this, holy moment, okay, when I showed them, and specifically the dates of January 2020. And so we're already well past that time, but as most of you might be aware, January 2020 was a cataclysmic event where the whole world economy kind of started imploding, when this beer flu thing came out from over here, and it spread all over the world. They call it the plandemic. They call it the scamdemic. China virus, the beer flu, COVID-19, all those catchphrases. It's basically a bug, and a lot of people think it's deliberate. This bug was customized on the business model of create a problem, offer the solution. It's the same thing. It's like some of those antivirus companies. They create a massive computer virus, and then they say, hey, they switch their hats around, and they say, hey, I'm blah, 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 computer virus protection services. If you buy my stuff, your business will be safe. Okay, it's a business model. Destroy something and then offer the cure. Okay? So anyway, that's happening on a continuous basis, 24/7, all across the world right now. So today, right now, in the world of cryptocurrencies, there's a tremendous amount of volatility and instability, where one of the main exchanges where they do this stuff, they had to shut things down for a while, and they're still shutting things down because there's too much instability. All the computers and the traders, they can't handle it. It's too chaotic. Same thing is happening over here in Wall Street. Wall Street is kind of like, if you make homebrew beer, imagine homebrew beer where they had too much yeast and too much sugar and they kept the lid on too tight. It's fermenting and it's fermenting, it's fermenting, and it's getting too rich, too alcoholic, too drugged out on its own self to reaching to the point of explosiveness. I don't believe we're there yet. I think we're still in the early stages of volatility, and the volatility is going to become more extreme over many months to come. Okay? Action, reaction, solution. Yes. I saw your notes there. So, yeah, right now, today, on Wednesday, I was just combing through a few things, and I just noticed a few things that kind of really jumped out at me. A lot of it is stuff that's been lingering for a long time. Freedom Fighter for the Next Generation has pointed out there's this whole new global restructuring thing going on. They're calling it the global reset. They're calling it the New World Order. And it is a communist dystopian nightmare, okay? All dressed up in a pretty package. Actually, I'm going to go to the stage here. Hold on. Hold on, I'm going to finish the cookie. Okay, so I guess Freedom Fighter, you'll understand this, I'm sure. Right now, there are these institutions. They're called the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Economic Forum. Those are kind of at the center of this so-called global reset. These folks over here, these are international bankers, and they were created decades ago to kind of act as like an insulator for all the chaos in the global banking system and the political and economic shifts that happen on the world every day. The World Bank does a similar thing. The Bank of International Settlements connects with all the major banks across the world to facilitate settlements between all the banks, okay? And then there's the World Economic Forum, which is kind of like a think tank, which is trying to collect all of these together. The really big thing at the center is the International Monetary Fund, okay? Freedom Fighter, yes, the bankers. Some people call it the banksters, like gangsters. Let's put it over here. Okay, these folks are at the very, very, very center of the financial universe of the whole world. What these people do affects everyone else in the world. Over here we have the United States Federal Reserve, American dollar. Over here we have the euro. That's the European Central Bank. We have the Central Bank of Japan, China, Switzerland. What else? I mean, pretty much every country, you know, Norway, Sweden, they all have sort of like different countries, okay? they all have their central banks, okay? And all of these banks have to connect to each other, okay? And Wall Street especially. Okay, let's just put Wall Street over here as well. Okay, all these folks here are the banksters, okay, in one way, shape, or form. And they don't actually create money or create wealth. They just play with it. They just take your money and play with it and gamble with it and manipulate that money while you do the work, okay? So right now, some of you might have noticed that there's some weird things happening in the United States. You might have noticed some weird things happening across the world. We're heading towards this thing called CBDCs. Okay? I'm going to put that in red so everybody sees it. CBDCs. Okay? That's what these guys have been talking about for a long time now, and it's been happening for years, but now it's actually happening in front of our faces. Central bank digital currencies. So this thing is happening right now all across the world, especially in China and in Europe. It's happening, especially in Italy, and it's going to be happening soon in the United States. All of these people, everyone across the world, over the next few months, the next couple of years, it's all going to go digital, okay? And it's going to look absolutely gorgeous. It's going to look like, oh my gosh, the banksters have saved us. Everything's going to be fine again, people. But what they're not telling you is how it actually works. It's a system of enslavement where these folks, what they're trying to do is create almost like CBDCs for all of these, and then all of these folks, what they're trying to do is connect all of it to the middle, like this. So that's what these folks are trying to do right now. They're trying to create like a world currency, a world global financial epicenter that controls everything, even Wall Street. Now, we're not there yet. This is what's coming. Where we are right now is a slightly different arena where we have the United States Fed dollars over here. That's at the center of the world right now, and then everybody else is connected through us. Everyone has to go through us. And guess what? This is what we have now. Okay, the United States Federal Reserve in alliance with the United States federal government. I better put the federal government plus Fed government. They've been ruling the world's finances for about, since 1944. Just towards the end of World War II. It's still going on today, so they've had about an 80-year run, and they've really, really perfected their art form of how to take money out of your pocket and put it into their pocket. It's beautiful. It's an incredibly successful system that they've created. And so what we have now is a world in the United States where the American dollar, which used to be worth this much and could do that much, is now worth only this much and can only do that much. So is that what you call wealth? I don't think so. That's my personal opinion. So what they do is, I don't want to get too involved in the inner mechanisms of banking, but the main pillars of the American economy are not to do with manufacturing anymore, or import-export of skills, talent, services, products, resources. It's all about the financialization of what we have here right now. And it just makes it much easier for these guys to control everything. Now, guess what? The USA Federal Reserve and the federal government is the #1 player inside the IMF. So these folks here are intimately connected with these folks here. This is what we have now. This is what we've been having for generations before, down to 1944. And this goes back actually till 1913. Let me mark that in here. From 1913 to 2020. Okay? So I think we should put like an RIP, rest in peace, because this whole thing is starting to fall apart in its original intentions. And this thing has turned into a monster. RIP. I hope there are certain people who just want this thing to go away. Get rid of the Federal Reserve, okay? Shrink the federal government and let the global economy take care of itself. These folks, they make their money by treating you as a debt cow, by treating you as a slave in a slave camp. It's a different business model. In China, they're building their CBDC right now. In China is essentially a political and social prison. Okay, it is a prison, okay? I'm not shy about saying that. It's a very gilded prison. It's for some places, it is a very shiny, glossy, glittery prison, but it is still a prison full of prison cells, okay? There's a lot of persecution and violence and abuse and cultural repression in China because they're operated by the Chinese Communist Party, okay? We've talked about this before, the CCP, okay? The Chinese Communist Party is incredibly effective at doing what it does. It uses extreme violence and complete command and control because it is a totalitarian, violent dictatorship, okay? Thank you, Pat. I saw that. You will own nothing and be happy for it. So that is one of the new mantras that's coming out of this system here. And I'll just put that in there, Pat, because that's perfect. What they're saying essentially is, you will own nothing and you will be happy for it. Because what's happening is, China has already started with its central bank digital currency. It's called the digital yuan. It's exactly the same as their paper currency, except that it comes from the China central government exclusively. And this money is digital, it's electronic, it is programmable. It is extremely accurately programmable in such a way that the testing is working. It's not working very well, but it's working well enough for China to feel encouraged. Because what's going to happen is they issue money to you, the Chinese citizen, on their CBDC card, and then you have to spend that money according to the way the CCP wants you to spend it. There is no privacy. Everything that you do, every penny that they spend is recorded in a ledger. And they filter that through a social score meter. It's very similar to what they do with Google, Facebook, and Twitter. In such a way that if you misbehave according to the rules of the CCP, guess where you end up? You go to prison or you die. Or both. So that's kind of what's happening right now in China. And they're doing an incredibly good job at this. Over here in the United States, we've got our own thing coming up soon. We've got the thing called FedNow. Likelihood it's going to be called FedNow. And it's going to be sort of like a little debit card. And it's going to have money on it. Government money that goes to you. And what they're trying to do here in the United States is copy China. Because the folks over here, the banksters, have figured out that this is an amazingly good plan that China has. We want to do this thing too. The trouble that they're having here is a lot of the people inside the IMF and over here and here and here, they have different economic and political structures which make it much harder to implement a CBDC that has all the commands and controls and power tools that they have in China. And in the United States and other places around the world that are starting to understand this stuff, they're realizing, like, my God, these banksters are literally trying to take over our lives. And if ever, you know how I've described how in the United States I see that we have a debt farm. that is operated by the Federal Reserve. Sorry, it is. We have the debt farm. I think of the United States as a debt farm, and the farmers are the U.S. Federal Reserve. They own it, and then the farmers who do the operations is the federal government. So they work as a team. Okay, we've talked about this before, but the problem that they're having in the United States is that it's much harder for the United States to set up their CBDC to work like the one they have in China, because we have the Constitution here. Okay, we have this little thing. We have this very awkward thing called the Constitution, and it was built just after the Declaration of Independence. And the whole idea of the Declaration of Independence and building this Constitution was to get away from these evil people over here that they had in England back in the day. They got sick of it. The whole point of America is freedom. Freedom of expression, personal rights, individual rights, free speech, the right to protect and defend yourself, the right to bear arms, the right to elect our leaders who they work for us. We do not work for them. They work for us, okay? And that's a big problem. That's a big problem for the federal government and the Federal Reserve banking system, because what they want is to be banksters extreme, like they're doing in China already. The IMF wants to do what China does. The World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, and the World Economic Forum, they're trying to create this beautiful glossy thing called like one world, whatever they call it. What's the expression? Who knows what are the expressions for this? Freedom Fighter, you would probably know. Path, you'd probably call it like a one world order. I think that's what it is. And their dream, their absolute fantasy dream, is to have a single global currency at the very epicenter that controls everything. Everything answers to these banksters, okay? And they're trying so hard. They're working at it so hard. It's working beautifully in China. Well, sort of. It's starting already. But a lot of people around the world have started to realize that they smell this. People are starting to notice this stuff and smell it. There are huge riots all over the world protesting the infringements of their rights and their freedoms, okay? And people are basically saying, wait a minute, we want our freedom, we want our rights, we want our privacy. And the federal government and the Federal Reserve, they want just exactly the opposite. They want to turn you into a good old-fashioned debt cow working for them, okay, on a whole new scale that's never been done before. They're basically going to aim for the weak, the young, the poor, the unhealthy people who are the most likely ones to be acceptable and receptive to the FedNow CBDC federal money, where they own you, okay? There's no privacy. So that's kind of what's happening right now. But it's not really, you're not going to see any of this on the mainstream news, okay? The only reason I'm showing you this stuff is because I'm interested in this stuff. I've been interested in it for a long time because I realized long ago that I was living in the United States as a debt cow. Long ago, I did have a little bit of debt. I've had very little debt in my life. I prefer to keep my money and work within my means and save and invest. But in the United States, it's very difficult to do that because the price of everything has gone so high that you can't actually get hold of anything like houses, cars, condos, college, healthcare, consumer spending and corporate expansion and growth. You can't do any of that stuff in America without borrowing money or borrowing a lot of money. And that's where the problem is. In a really healthy society with healthy free market, open, natural human behavior, it's a self-correcting system. If somebody is misbehaving, eventually they will go out of business. If some kind of technology becomes redundant, it will go out of business and something else will become fostered. If they have bad weather, crops will suffer. If they have good weather, and basically the markets are changing constantly and fluidly all over the world. But the thing is, that's very inconvenient for the banks. They want stability. They want to trap you like a debt cow, like with factory farming. They basically want to turn us into debt cows or slaves on a slave camp, and then they just plug us into like the what do they call the milking machines for the cows. I know people who've been to China. And for all the pretty pictures that you might see, there's a lot of very scary stuff that's going on there, okay? Okay, I just saw your notes there, Brenda Rowe. I just saw that. Oh, God. Anyway, let me just finish up with this little topic here. This is happening now, whether you like it or know it or not. This is what we have right now. These are all the other countries around the world that have to manage and operate their economies based on the fluctuating instabilities of the United States, our Federal Reserve, our Treasury, and our federal government. And a lot of people around the world are getting sick of it. They're getting sick of it because the United States has basically weaponized the dollar. Weaponized the dollar because they figured out in the late 50s and in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the American corporations and Wall Street and federal government, they realized that we can use the US dollar as a weapon, especially after 1971 when they released the US dollar from the gold standard. They realized, my God, we can print as much money as we like now, and that's how we're going to get our debts paid off. We're going to create inflation. And so now today, roughly 50 years later, we have a massive catastrophic event appearing on our horizon. People have been talking about the economic meltdown for years. And we had the obvious ones in 2008, and we had an obvious one in 2020. But we haven't actually had the big meltdown yet. There was a big shocker in March of 2020. I'm sure you remember that. That's when the China virus, like a bomb, went off across the whole world, and with the whole world had this financial implosion. That's already history. And we all know that places are starting to recover and reformat themselves. And a lot of people think that the whole China virus was a massive scam, pandemic to create this shockwave across the world of massive catastrophic disasters that would terrorize humanity so that these folks could implement their new plan. They basically can come in and tell you, hey, watch this. I am the IMF. I am the Bank of International Settlements. I am the World Economic Forum. I am the World Bank. Vote for me, and I will save you. All you have to do is do what we tell you to do. Oops, I wasn't meant to say that part. All you have to do is accept our beautiful CBDC money. And everything's going to be perfect. Have fun. Go and buy your food and the things that are approved. We'll be watching you, so we'll make sure that everything's safe and everything's good. And if anybody misbehaves and upsets anybody else, we'll take care of them. So don't you worry. Vote for me and I will save you. So that's already happening, and they're trying to do it here in the United States. So that's kind of where we are. Sheeple, yes, we believe what we're told. Sometimes we don't have choices. Sometimes the federal government enacts laws over which we have no control or say at all. So I wanted to make a few notes. I grabbed a couple of things. I hope this makes sense to people. I'm trying to give people a snapshot, broad perspective of what's happening right now, today, Wednesday. This is like a steaming, frothing, homemade batch of beer where it's got too much sugar and too much yeast because these guys got so greedy that they're trying to turn it into this monster machine. But it's actually set to explode at some point down the road. I have my opinion on the dates. Maybe I'll share those later. I don't know. We have this right now. Okay? We're switching to this. Okay? Basically, these guys are trying to replace these guys, if that makes any sense. Okay? All these little blobs here, these are all the satellites, the other countries, the other economies. Okay? So I hope you can see the difference between this and this. This did not exist before 1913. This did not really exist until the way we have it now, like in 1971. Then this became very powerful, okay? But it has reached the end of its life cycle, okay? The U.S. Federal Reserve and the federal government, they have created so much debt, it's not reconcilable across the whole planet Earth. It's basically like we, in this country, our federal government and the Federal Reserve Bank have acted like a couple of teenagers with credit cards where daddy says, it's okay, you can just keep spending and spending and spending. Don't worry, I'll cover you, I'll cover the tab. And then the reality is, nobody's stopping any of this to happen. And it's just create a massive, massive debt-fueled nightmare, which we're going to have to deal with at some point. We're not quite there yet. So this is what we have right now. This is dying. What they're trying to do is replace it with this. Okay? Now, let me do something else here. From my perspective, this is the world of fake money. This is the world of fake money taken to a whole new level. That's what they're trying to do, okay? They're just trying to keep the old system going, but in a newly packaged form with a bunch of new leaders over here. So, there's another system, of course, because, nature doesn't live in a bubble. There is something happening which is more like this, diagrammatically. I hope you will see the difference. I'm trying to make an illustration here where instead of all this command and control through central one world government, which is basically this is like a totalitarian state. This is like communism to the extreme, which is sort of what they learned from here. They've learned how this works. They learned how this works over here. These folks learned it from the Karl Marxists and the Stalinists over in Russia. They did a fantastic job. They're doing an incredible thing right now. They have a lot of problems in China, okay? Because the Chinese are not stupid. There's a lot of incredibly wealthy, very smart, hardworking, capable people in China, but they live in a prison. And some people inside the prison are getting sick of it. So we have problems, okay? We have a lot of problems. And in about 2010, there was somebody who invented something called Bitcoin, and the whole idea is to have honest money where people could trade like this. Okay? And so on. And so on. So that's kind of what they did here. So this, I know this looks crazy, but this is the world of honest money. And when you have honest money where the value of your money is maintained and it grows and you can nurture it and you don't have any interference, then these guys here, the globalists, that's the IMF, World Bank, Bank of International Settlements, World Economic Forum, and all the CBDCs, okay? Guess what happens? The thing is, these folks here, they're terrified of this. They're absolutely terrified because this is happening simultaneously at the same time that this thing is dying and this thing is trying to give birth to itself. This thing is a monster. It's an evil monster on galactic proportions that we've never seen before. And it is trying to give birth to itself. And at the very same time, the opposing energy is this one. This is the world of potential that's starting to open up. It's very, very new. And we've never had this on a global scale before. But it is happening, and it's very new. It's like it's a whole new world of money. And what happens is, of course, these guys, they become redundant. Okay? In other words, how are we going to get rich? How are we going to get fat? How are we going to get happy if we can't do all of this? If you take over and you reclaim your rights, your privacy, and your freedom, and you're all exchanging with each other using honest money that is not corrupted by us, what are we going to do? Where are we supposed to go? So guess what's happening? These people, okay, these people over here, here, with all their CBDCs, all of them, okay? Let's put their little CBDCs, okay? CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies. That's how they're trying to control their debt cows on their slave camps, okay? The whole idea is to, see, this is very, very big. It's modeled on this. This is dying. It's going to be replaced with this. This is giving birth to itself. It's not going to go away. But at the same time, it is going to meet an equal and opposite force of resistance called honest money, which looks like this. So, you've probably figured it out. There are certain things that allow this to happen. There's these massive, amazing technologies called blockchain that allow this to happen. And this is so terrifying to these people that they've realized they can't actually stop it happening. So what they're trying to do, these folks are trying to create a hybrid where this keeps going and they have the chance to do this. The problem is that the banksters know all about this game and how to do it, and the way to do it is to behave like China, to impose a complete totalitarian command and control over money, using the modern monetary theory and printing money to the levels of infinity, purely for their benefit, okay? But what about us? What about we the people? We used to have something before 1933. We used to have gold. We used to have the gold standard. It was genuine money. If people screwed up, you lost money, you lost money. If you're successful, you got money. And it was measured in gold. That has disappeared. That all stopped in 1933. So we're left today with what we have right now in America, where we have these paper currencies, which are very more or less like toilet paper, almost like they have in Zimbabwe. So what's happening is, what's actually happening and what is going to happen is we're going to get a hybrid. This is giving birth to itself exactly at the same time that this is giving birth to itself. And nobody has ever been here before in human existence. So we're going to be looking at these things simultaneously. God knows what it's going to be like. I'm much more interested in this world. I am very, very, very interested in this world because I prefer the idea of honest money with honest people where you know where you stand with somebody else and there's no interference. I don't have to go through any of these people. Okay? I like my freedom. I like my privacy. I like my human rights. I like my money to retain its value and to grow in value. That doesn't work for these guys, okay? What they're trying to do is strip you dry, milk you dry, shear the sheep. They're trying to take all the wool off the sheep for their benefit, okay? They don't really produce anything, okay? It's not like they're sitting there developing technology or working in factories or making chocolate candy bars or processing meat. These guys don't do anything. They take your money and they play with it for their advantage at your loss, okay? It's very simple. So what's happening is These guys are gathering their resources and their power to grow themselves into an even bigger monster than ever existed before. And it is meeting resistance from this new thing that has never existed before. It's happening simultaneously. The big question, even for very, very seriously advanced business people, money managers, people who advise banks and governments, they don't know how this is going to work. Nobody knows how this is actually going to work, over the next few years. But I'm going to give you a few of my personal opinions. Stay there. I will share some of my personal opinions. All right. I was talking about this with Love Triber the other night. I think I mentioned it before. We're at the closing stages of the Pluto cycle. It's about a 250-year cycle, which was born for the United States roughly on the 4th of July, 1776. About 11 years later, 1787, they created the Constitution. Okay? That Constitution is still alive today, but it has been heavily perverted and undermined and corroded and eroded to the point where the United States over here is starting to look remarkably like this over here. And at the same time, it's weird because these folks over here, they want what we've got. They do that by theft. We do it by creativity. Okay? It's all fermenting right now. So we're at the very end of a 250-year historic cycle called the Pluto cycle. It's called the Pluto return in astrology. And just like what happens when you get to the end of a solar cycle or a Mars cycle, a Venus cycle, you can feel it. So we've been feeling the pressure building up since 2008 especially. We're reaching a tightening time frame now where for the rest of 2021, 2022, 2023, and almost into 2024, we are going to go into the birth canal, heading to the rebirth of the United States, where we start a whole new Pluto cycle all over again. It's a rebirth of America. Have you heard of the Saturn return? A lot of people who've been to this channel or interested in astrology, they've heard of this thing called the Saturn return. For a lot of people, the Saturn return is not pretty. It's not fun. Basically what it means is if you haven't got your act together by the time you're about 29 and a half years old, you will feel it in your body, your life, and your world as pain and suffering, shame, loss, damages. You'll feel things like depression, manic depression, a sense of loss of hope, like you realize, wow, I really screwed up. That's a very common scenario with the Saturn return, aged when we are about 29 and a half years old. So can you imagine what it's like for a Pluto return? Okay? There's the Uranus return, the Neptune return, but the Pluto return is the big monster, okay? So it's happening right now. And so the United States is heading into the birth canal. It's right there right now. We're starting to get birthing pains. What are they called? When the woman starts to feel those birthing pains and she knows she's going to be delivering that baby soon. For human beings, I think it's like about a 4-day time window on average, where you start to feel in the body that, oh, I'm ready to give birth, okay? So when you extend it to the Pluto cycle, it takes years. We're talking about a birth canal that takes years. And then when you have the breach, when the little newborn organism is starting to emerge into the new world, that's the actual birthing process, typically the part where there is maximum pain. Love Triber, contractions, labor pains. That's exactly what I was looking for. So right now, my personal view, when I look at everything on the global scale, I'm not really focusing on Wall Street or the federal government or what the bosses in the CCP are doing over here. I'm looking at the Pluto cycle. I mean, how many politicians do you know who are watching the Pluto cycle? How many bankers do you know who are watching the Pluto cycle? I don't know any. There's no news about it anywhere on the internet, okay? Anyway, it's there and it's real, and I feel very connected to it, and that's where I'm basing my opinions and my decisions and perceptions going forward. And so when I look at it, it's a clock. It's like a ticking clock. The Pluto return exact happens approximately at the end of 2023. Okay, so we've got about 3 years to go through labor pains in the birth canal. 2024 is when we are finally out and we have given birth, okay? And then Pluto moves forward direct from 27 degrees Capricorn and zooms ahead into Pluto in Aquarius a few months later. But between now and January 2024, we've got about 3 years and 3 months of intense labor pain. And from what I've observed, the labor pain increases the closer and closer and closer you get to the 0 point. The 0 point exact is roughly at the end of 2023. So you can mark your calendars now if you want to. That's what I'm doing. I'm just giving you my personal opinions. It's such a big concept to actually earmark the end of 2023. I don't know what it's going to look like because we have to get there first. So guess what happens? Time moves on. Pluto is stuck here at 24 degrees Capricorn for a while. It's going to edge forward, cross the 27 degree mark. You have to remember the United States, the reason this is such critical timing is because the United States was born with Pluto in Capricorn at 27 degrees. Okay? Opposed by Mercury in Cancer at 27 degrees retrograde. So it's a classic setup for creative destruction in terms of business. So we haven't reached the point of critical mass yet. We're just entering labor pains right now. The very first hint of it started in 2008. Okay, that was just a glimpse. Uh-oh, we're in the last chapters of the Pluto cycle. Uh-oh. And now we're looking forward. I'm looking forward, way forward to the end of 2023. So what am I going to do? What are you folks going to do between now and then? Because you have to understand, this is inevitable. It's not going away. If you want to pretend it's not happening, fine. And you can just, cruise along with the 99% of the rest of humanity. I mean, I'm going to be doing that to some extent. I can't control any of this. I'm just an impartial, neutral observer. I have opinions and thoughts, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect myself, protect my money, protect my privacy, protect my freedom of speech, my rights to self-expression, my rights to grow and defend myself, my rights to honest money. I'm very concerned about all that. And luckily, I'm in a community with people who also feel very similar ways to myself. So I'm not alone. But it's also kind of a scary position because you realize that not everybody thinks this way. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. Those are my opinions. So start planning right now. How are you going to protect yourself? How are you going to defend yourself? How are you going to plan for this future, this new thing that's happening? Well, you're going to get a lot of learning experience and a lot of learning tips in 2021, especially. 2021 is going to be another landmark year. It's going to be a year of radical upheaval, radical changes, okay? I should really do another chart, shouldn't I? Path Traveler, the Federal Reserve is a private corporation. The major shareholders are J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, HSBC Bank, Deutsche Bank, and who's the other big one? But anyway, it's the five biggest shareholders in the Federal Reserve are the ones I just mentioned. They are completely private entity, and they do whatever they want because they can. Anyway, so let's break things down in a few little chunks. Actually, maybe I should just do a little chart over here. Hold on. Okay, we've already talked about this. This is happening. This is inevitable. It will be affected by legislation from these folks, because these folks here, they do not like these folks here. But they're going to have to learn to live together somehow. Okay? I have some notes here. I'll come to those in a minute. But I just wanted to give you kind of a marker on a calendar. Like a time frame, okay, where we are right now. It says 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and onwards. 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. Okay. So just to give you some timing, right now over here in towards the end of 2020, so I guess we're about here right now. Pluto is in Capricorn, about 24 degrees. And over the next few years, Pluto is going to migrate over here. This is the real trigger point over here. This is where things are going to get... Okay. This is another trigger point over here, where Pluto is going to finally reach its crescendo. Pluto in Capricorn, roughly 27 degrees, okay? That's going to be happening somewhere around here. And then eventually, Pluto, at this point, Pluto will finally migrate into Aquarius. Okay? Now, I haven't seen any of this stuff anywhere on the internet, so I'm just sharing it with you. I think it's important, valuable information. I know it's very broad perspective. It doesn't really help you much in your day-to-day chores, or what are you going to do, how to save money now, how are you going to earn money, how are you going to protect, but it's good to know this anyway. So if you imagine this is the year 1776 revisited over here, when we had the 4th of July 2020 as kind of a rebirth, 1776, okay? Now, let's stretch this out a few years. The Constitution was written about 11 years later. The Constitution has its own birthday, okay? 1787. And that happened sort of over here, okay? We're in the Pluto and Aquarius area. So, right now, we are in the very early stages of labor pains, okay? It's been building up since 2008. But the labor pains are here. And the moment of birth is here. I don't know how to do this. Moment of rebirth is roughly here. Okay? But the labor pains go all the way like this. Okay? So I'm trying to lay this out schematically in a way that I hope this makes sense to you. This is the moment of giving birth to the new America, somewhere in this area here. I'm being wide with my circles. These are the labor pains that we're going to be enduring up to that point. Politically, globally, with the world economy and the world banking system, your money, my money, everybody's money. Everybody on planet Earth will experience this, okay? Everybody here will experience this. This is going to go through massive convulsive changes. This will go through massive convulsive changes. This is dying, okay? This is dying. It's going to be replaced by this weird hybrid that is coming our way. So, over here with the labor pains, there's going to be a lot of resistance from the establishment because they want to keep things the way they were over here. There's going to be a lot of revolutionary energy as we head towards Pluto and Aquarius, as the people who want their rights and their freedoms protected and defended so that we can have something like this, okay? So, the thing about 2021, this period over here, it's going to be a shocker. Okay, this is going to be a real kind of a shocker. It's going to extend into here as well, somewhat. Okay? But this is kind of a big shocker here. Because what's happening, this will be the first jolt where we really start to feel it. Like, oh my God, labor pains. You know it's going to happen. You can't switch it off. And why is that happening so? This is Pluto just moving its journey very, very, very relentlessly forward, okay? New world, new history over here. This is going to be the new world over here. But it's not going to be the new world order perfectly the way they want it. These monster banksters. It's not going to be the new world order the way these folks want it. It's going to be a hybrid world order of some kind. Because the monsters are not going to give themselves away too easily. So what's going to happen is Saturn and Jupiter are both heading into Aquarius. Saturn plus Jupiter, starting early next year, heading into Aquarius. That's the little squiggle sign for Aquarius in Western astrology. The water bearer. Aquarius is very much interested in the energy. This energy over here, this Aquarian energy here, this Aquarian energy here. We're getting the glimpse of it right now, but the real action starts here. What's the theme of the story is that we, the people, want to reclaim our rights, our freedom of speech, our privacy, our rights to commune with each other in ways that's good for the community instead of ways that's primarily good for these folks. These folks are going to meet a lot of resistance starting next year. Because Saturn in Aquarius and Jupiter in Aquarius, they're going to really stimulate the Aquarian energy of freedom and disruption, and anything that obstructs individual freedom will be met with resistance of some kind. So my personal feeling is that in 2021, we're going to see all sorts of revolutionary uprisings across the world, where a lot of pissed off people are going to start to revolt. They're going to start revolutions. It's already happening in China. It's already happening in Europe, Eastern Europe, okay? They're already protesting about the limitations on their freedom. They're sick of it. The Chinese people are not the CCP. The Chinese Communist Party is a totalitarian, monstrous, evil dictatorship. They run a prison filled up with prison camps, and everybody in China is essentially a prison, whether they like a prisoner, whether they like it or know it or not. No matter how rich they are, they do not have the freedoms that we have. These guys want to be like China. These guys, I'm going to get to this in a minute. I want to show you something else soon, but I hope you understand what we're talking about here. I'm going to put the nice one on top. This is where I will be aligning myself in any way, shape I can, so I can operate out here. And yet at the same time, I have to allow that these people still exist. And so how are we going to get around that? I'm hoping we can figure it out between ourselves here in this little community. So It's going to become much more public knowledge next year when these CBDCs are starting to get rolled out across the world. And the more that they are rolled out across the world, the more there will be revolutionary reactions to the CBDC, because news is going to start to spread around that even though it looks like it's a very seductive, beautiful thing, it's actually a trap. It's a very, very dangerous trap. So you have to be very, very careful. And people are going to revolt. I think a lot of revolution is going to happen in China and partly in America. Also the rest of the world. Why do I say that? It's because China is born with the moon in Aquarius. America is born with the moon in Aquarius. China and the United States are very closely linked astrologically. It's like a very sick marriage. The glossy, sparkly America married to the glossy, sparkly version of China. But underneath the clothing and the facades of America, there's some very sinister, evil stuff that has been going on, and it has to stop. Inside China, underneath the glossy coating of China, there's some very evil stuff that has to stop. And those people are going to revolt. Saturn is going to be the taskmaster, the great teacher. Saturn in Aquarius is going to say anything that stops me from being me is going to meet with a reckoning. And Jupiter is going to just expand that even more. Well, Jupiter in Aquarius is going to feel like the abusers are fully empowered to do their monstrous things even more than ever before. But it will be met with resistance. So there's going to be a lot of push-pull resistance here in 2021. So, yes, Pat, you've got a point there. A lot of people have been forced to slow down through the scamdemic. So we're starting to look and learn. Yes, think, dig, learn. Anyway, let me go to some notes I made earlier. These are just some random things I wanted to share with you. I don't know if you noticed, there's this fellow out there called Hunter Biden. He is the son of this fellow called Joe Biden, who's running for president in America. Some of you are aware that Joe Biden is very closely aligned with China. Joe Biden wants to be the China representative to America so that we can turn China into Chinerica. Okay? That is Joe Biden's job. Joe Biden's son is deeply in bed with the CCCP spy chiefs, okay? It's already been revealed. You can see it in the public press, okay? And Daddy knows. Daddy's trying to deny it, but it is leaking out right now. And so this is causing a little bit of turbulence in the media, because we're starting to realize in a very obvious way that there are certain people in America who are doing everything that they can to sell out to China because they want to be like China. The reason they want to be like China is because they're addicted to absolute power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you can look to what's happening over here with these guys. Where is it? Where's my note here? I don't know if you've noticed, but right now, the boss of Google, the boss of Facebook, the boss of Twitter are inside Washington right now. They're being grilled in Congress for abuse of the American laws, monopoly abuse of the systems, okay? And so if you haven't figured it out by now, the issues of privacy are deeply, let's say, undermined by these very famous, very popular businesses. These businesses essentially have monopolies over their world, especially to do with monopolies over information and communication. And so that they can't help themselves. These folks can't help themselves. No one has bothered to check them or stop them. And they've turned into monsters. As amazing as Google is, and Facebook and Twitter, as amazing as they are, there is a shadow side. And it is becoming exposed now to the general public. You are being watched, followed, tracked, monitored. There's no such thing as privacy. They have everything on you. These folks have total monopolies on a global scale for information and communications in their worlds, okay? And so guess what? Again, they can't help themselves. They're using it for their own purposes, especially with the tool of censorship. They can stop anything and everything that they don't like. These folks are very, very left-wing entities. They do not like President Trump, okay? They do not like the Constitution. For these guys here, here, and here, this is the enemy. This is the enemy, okay? They're trying to destroy this because these guys are very closely aligned with, as technocrats who are, okay, I don't want to labor this too much. Those guys are very interested in doing the same thing here as they're doing right now. So, I'm pleased. I'm really quite happy to see that these huge companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, they have so much power. I'm glad that they are being called in for questioning, okay? And I hope they get slapped. Next thing I wanted to talk about, have you ever heard of this thing called Falun Gong, Falun Dafa? It's basically kind of a peace group. Some people think of it as a religion or a way of life where it's all about peace, compassion, and what's the other one? Patience and caring. It's a very, to me it looks like a very healthy thing, sort of like advanced yoga like I did when I was, I don't know, years ago. Anyway, these folks, they have a large population in China, but the CCP does not like them. And so these folks are being heavily persecuted right now to the point where it is now genocide. There are millions of people who practice Falun Gong in China who've been killed, murdered, disappeared, okay, for their faith, for their belief. It's happening right now, live today. Okay, here's another, here's another little snip I found. Over in Wall Street, of course, Wall Street is very closely aligned with these folks. Wall Street loves what these guys do and how they do it. It's almost like they all want to be like these totalitarian one world control monsters. They want to create a totalitarian state, a totalitarian currency and control through the financial and banking system where they have absolute power. And the Google, Facebook, Twitter folks are very closely aligned here and here. I'm not saying the Bidens are bad people. It's just that the Bidens represent China, okay? I don't like what they do in China. There's plenty of nice Chinese people, but the CCP is evil as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I'm just voicing my opinions. I'm not saying it's a fact. It's just an opinion. And so, this to me, it's very disturbing, but I'm also glad that this is being revealed to the public now. Wall Street has been revealed that it has been working very effectively, powerfully behind the scenes to reboot Hong Kong into an active live trading center again, so that the Wall Street can make more money, but they're going to try to do it in such a way that there's a lot of command and control from the CCP. Because as some of you know, the CCP has completely taken over Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a revolutionary hotbed right now. And it's very possible, it's like a powder keg. It could become much more active in terms of its revolutionary energy right now, no matter how much violence is used against the young Hong Kong people. Okay, so another thing, as some of you know, we're heading up to a historical moment in time for America. It's called the elections. And so it's going to be a very heated election. It's obviously going to be disputed. It's obviously going to be contested as like fraud. In other words, if Biden wins, Trump will contest it. If Trump wins, Biden will contest it. So I just kind of made a few notes myself. If Biden wins, we'll still have a Republican Congress. So that means there's going to be gridlock, okay? If Trump wins, they're going to have a Republican Congress, so that will be like a unified force over here. Okay, so let's extrapolate a little bit further. If Trump wins, he is going to continue to work with the Federal Reserve and the federal government because he represents the federal government across to the whole world. He is going to work with them to continue to initiate this thing. However, this is where it gets really freaky. Dear Donald is very aware of this, and secretly, or maybe not so secretly, this is what Donald wants for his people. Okay? Now, you may hate Donald Trump. You may think he's a despicable monster, but this is what he wants. This is good for we the people. Okay? So, as you might have noticed, Trump is not shy about pointing fingers at China. He blames China for all of it. It's very convenient to have an enemy. You have to have an enemy. We have the most perfect enemy possible. China. We can blame everything on China. You know how I like to blame everything on the planets? Well, Trump can blame everything on China. So let's say two scenarios. If Biden gets elected, he's going to go deep in bed with China, and America will be lost forever. Okay? It'll look like the shiny America that we have, but in fact, China is going to take over because Biden is doing everything he can to sell out to China, just like they did with the what was that? Damn it, NAFTA, the NAFTA agreements back in the 80s or something. So if Biden, let's say Biden wins, Biden is going to be a big time globalist. He's going to be working very closely with these people and with China to turn America into Chinerica so they can create this monster. China needs Biden to win, okay? China needs Biden to win. Let's say Biden wins. He is going to salivate because what he's going to do, he's going to allow the Fed to create CBDC money to infinity. It'll just flood the world with American dollars. And we, the people in America, will be screwed over because the value of our dollars is going to go down and down and down and down on an astronomical scale, which is kind of like a setup for this, because this could be very, very, very painful if the dollar loses all power by that time. The thing is, to me, it's almost inevitable that we're going to lose the power, okay? Now, let's say Donald wins, okay? He's going to do the same thing because that's his job. He is owned by the Federal Reserve, but he's actually going to find ways to limit their power. If Biden wins, they're going to issue this much free fake money. They're going to just saturate the whole planet Earth with American dollars. They're going to destroy the dollar. They're going to put America, the debt farm, into debt on an astronomical scale never seen before. Wall Street will go absolutely berserk, crazy, ballistic with happiness. We, the people, will be completely owned by the CBDCs. And a lot of people will say, wow, that's amazing. I don't feel that way. I'm not interested in that world. I like this world. This is where we're heading. This is where I want to go. So let's just say Trump wins, okay? He will issue federal money because the American people are desperate. Wall Street is desperate. Wall Street can't function without the Federal Reserve printing out money. There are a lot of people in America whose lives are destroyed. They're not going to be able to continue to survive without federal money. So that we go back to that whole thing, vote for me and I will save you. So over here, the thing is that Trump will have a much more heavily restricted amount of funny money going out the door. Enough to keep him elected, enough to keep Wall Street sort of turning over, so to speak. But in the same time, it will start to open doorways for this to come more active, more alive in the future. So that's what I see is happening here. And I don't really know what's going to happen. But we're going to find out over the next few months. November and December are going to be extremely volatile with global communications. It's building up right now. We got the full moon coming. It's all about money, honey. Taurus moon opposite sun in Scorpio. Money, money, money. My money, your money. Your money, my money. How's that look? How's this going to look? Because we're all in bed with each other on a global scale. So right now, at this moment in time, this is becoming much more active. It's actually happening. It's fermenting. The IMF just had huge meetings all of October. All these banksters from around the world have been hanging out over in Europe in a big meeting with the IMF. Everybody was there. All the bosses of the bosses were there. It's just like a big mafia, convention. They're all there. They're trying to figure out, how are we going to do this? How are we going to implement our one world order in such a way that we can get away with it in America and we the people will never know what's happening? How are we going to do that? Well, they know they can't stop this, so they're trying to figure out, how do we incorporate this into this? And if I was a really master doodler, I would find a way to put this on top of that, but it would be very difficult to see and understand. So anyway, right now, the people who are most active in trying to generate their CBDCs, number one, China, absolutely. Number two, Europe. Italy is very advanced with its CBDC stuff at the Spunta banking system. The Middle East is already taking off with digital currencies, and there are a few others too, like is it the Bahamas, I think Venezuela, and it might be Estonia, and a few places. But it is happening, and this is not going to stop it. And eventually America will be on this list, okay? But we're waiting. America is waiting because we're going to see how these people behave. Let them make a few mistakes before we actually jump in and we do our own thing. Our own thing is going to be called FedNow. The United States is going to have something called FedNow, which will be the American CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. In other words, you won't need Chase Bank, you won't need Bank of America, you won't need Wells Fargo, you won't need US Bank, you won't need your regional credit union. It goes straight to the Federal Reserve, just like it does in China, and they will track every transaction that you do, from buying toilet paper, buying drugs, whatever it is. And if they don't like it, they will squeeze your money so that you have to behave. Talk about totalitarianism. It's insane. It's terrifying. So anyway, the volatility is building up. Hello, Robin. I see you. The volatility is building up. It's like a fermentation. It's happening here. It's the very early stages of labor pains, to the point where this is where we have this, the screaming mama and the birth of the new America. It's happening here. We're going to get a taste of revolution here in 2021, but it's really going to go big time in 2024 when Pluto hits Aquarius. There's going to be no messing around. The whole of planet Earth will finally have figured out what's going on between the good money and the fake money. And it's going to be happening simultaneously. And eventually most of the world is going to say, we want this. Out with this. This has to go. This has to go. However, by the time people are already figuring it out that this is what we want and this has to go, it'll be too late. This will be saturated across the world. By 2024, the whole world will be connected by CBDCs, okay? So we're going to have a countermeasure over here, the counter-revolution, okay? I guarantee it. So this is a timeline for you. I'm sharing it right now. I wish I could help more. I wish I had more details for you. The closer we get to this point, I will have some more accuracy, but I'm highlighting the basics for now, okay? This is kind of how I operate. I look at things from a very, very broad perspective, way out in outer space, and then I have to find a way to come back down to Earth here and translate this into language that your average person watching a YouTube channel could understand, if you're interested in this kind of stuff at all. So there we go. Let me just check in with you guys. All right. So, sadly, there's going to be what they call winners and losers. It's inevitable. Like in the United States, for example, we still got about 35 million people unemployed. A lot of those people are never going to get their jobs back. So we're going to have like a permanent welfare state. We're going to have a permanent population of very needy people, about 7%, 8, even 10%. And then we have the aging of the population. Then we have all the massive debt. We have $27 trillion of debt here, okay? Where's that going to go? How's that going to be reconciled? Huh? 26.5 trillion. That's just for America. Could you run a company like that? Could you run a business like that? Could you sustain your life by being in debt up to your eyeballs to infinity? What happens when things are held accountable? Saturn is going to impose accountability. Jupiter is going to expand anything and everything that's outside of the accountability. Jupiter is also going to expand the whole idea of revolution. It's also going to expand the idea that America is going to be okay. And it's going to expand confidence in China, okay? So there's a double thing happening here. China is really messed up right now, okay? It's really messed up, especially with its food issues over here and up here. They're in a lot of pain. They've got 600 million people, okay? 600 million people who live on less than whatever it is, like $140 a month. The CCP doesn't care. It's just like, eh. And there's about 360 million people in China who are basically doing this to the CCP. They have huge environmental problems. They have huge problems with water. They have huge problems with their food sources and their crops. Huge problems. And the worse it gets inside China, the more aggressive and violent and more like a bully China will become to the rest of the world. China is going to become very, very aggressive in trying to find food and control and power. And I think it's going to get ugly. Some people say it's a Cold War already. We already have a brewing currency war between China and America. Some people are thinking it's going to be a hot war. Bang, bang. China is already extremely excited and eager to use its new army, its new military. Their whole military is built on theft. All their technology, all their plans, designs, manufacturing, it's all based on, information technology stolen from the United States and from Europe and from Russia. And now they have their own. And it works. It's a massive criminal enterprise, and they're doing it extremely well, extremely successfully. So anyway, things are starting to ferment. We have another week. When we come back here next week, we will have lived through the American election. God knows what's going to happen. I have no idea. The markets are crazy, by the way. Did I show you this? Hold on. Wait a minute. Something else here. There are some very smart people who know how to take advantage of all this volatility and the upswings and the downswings in the local markets. Okay? So in the financial markets right now, basically Wall Street and lots of independent trading places, hello Michelle, I see you. Hi. Have you heard of things like TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, Vanguard, Fidelity, Coinbase or Kraken or Binance or some of these places, the exchanges, in the stock market. So the stock markets are kind of reaching overload at the moment because there's so much volatility. The computers in the banks are starting to crash, okay? And there's another one called Coinbase here. These folks deal with cryptocurrencies. These folks had to shut down on and off today because they could not handle the pressure. It's so extreme, it's so volatile, okay? And it's happening all across. It's just the systems are overloaded and they're fractured, falling apart as the old ways are dying out and the new ways are being born. That's kind of what's happening. This is where I want to be. I know it looks crazy, but that's how I see it. Thank you, Freedom Fighter. I'm going to wrap it up now. You're welcome to visit again, Freedom Fighter. It's great having you here. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Okay. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Hold on, BU. I saw your notes there. Hey, BU. I have to be really careful with my channel because there's a lot of censorship going on right now. I have to be really, really careful. My channel is highly vulnerable to censorship. My channel is already heavily penalized from the end of 2018. So I'm just living by a thread here. Okay, I've been living like a thread since late 2018, and I can't undo it. Basically, I was guilty and proven innocent. I never had a chance. Now, if I was given a chance, I feel like I would have been able to prove my innocence. But the powers that be, the great GOOGLE and the masters of YOUTUBE, decided that they would take the word of the two women who decided to help destroy my channel. And so we're still here, but I'm on an extremely tight leash regarding community guidelines. And so I be careful. I'm very, very careful so you understand a lot of the times my chat will block out some of your words if anything remotely, possibly controversial that might need censorship is exposed. I want to keep going. I'm trying to hold a middle ground where I'm just sharing opinions, sharing my thoughts and feelings, and it's up to you what you do with it. I'm not trying to, take over the world. I'm not a globalist. I don't believe in globalism. I believe in the individual. I believe in having individual rights. I like my freedom. I like our Constitution. I like our Declaration of Independence. I'm sorry if that pisses off a lot of people, but I prefer that way. Thank you. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that right now. I've been going for quite a long time, and I want you guys to enjoy yourselves. I'll see some of you on Sunday, hopefully. And eventually, I think I've also mentioned, I am starting another YouTube channel, okay? I'm very, very, let's say, sensitive about this thing because I don't know how it's going to start, and it's going to mean work. It's going to be a lot of pain. So I'm going to have to do all this kind of promotion and marketing stuff to basically plead to everyone who's already a subscriber, a member, a viewer, to resubscribe and reset your notifications on the new channel when we eventually get there. Anyway, I haven't started yet. Mercury is still retrograde. I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to wait till we come out later in this year. I'm going to wait till after the elections and see how I feel. 2021 is where I'm looking to 2021 right now. I'm looking to radical shifts in energy because everything's going to change in 2021. Those are going to be like the early stages of this new rebirth. But we have to go through the labor pains first. It's already obvious right now, but it's really going to accelerate and amplify in 2021, okay? Take care, everybody. It's been a pleasure to hang out with you, listening to your chat. I am going to play a little bit of music. You can say your farewells to each other over the next minute or so, and then I'm going to close it down, okay? So let me have a look here. Uh, I guess I could play one of my own little acousticy things. I want to leave on a kind of a cheerful note, okay? I'm going to leave on a cheerful note.